So today I'd like to talk about Remi Lore and how it illustrates the problem with roguelikes. So what are roguelikes and roguelites with a T? According to Wikipedia, the name is in reference to the game Rogue from the early 80s. There are certain attributes that a roguelike has, and in short, a roguelite has even fewer of those attributes. So roguelike literally means like the game Rogue. So what attributes are here? Well, there's a list of about 12 attributes, but the core ones that seem to trigger the usage of the word roguelike when describing a game are randomized environments, elements of permadeath, and that overall the game is hack and slash. So now let's talk about Remi Lore for a minute and how it fits into that criteria. So you play as schoolgirl Remi who discovers the sentient grimoire Lore, hence the name Remi Lore. You get transported to another world where you have to fight your way back home. So how does it fit the roguelite criteria? Well, it's a top-down hack and slash. There are randomized dungeons that reset upon Remi's death. When Remi dies, she also loses the weapon, but when she dies, it's not quite exactly permadeath. The reason why is because as she's playing, she earns points. She earns points by defeating enemies. She can find additional points by breaking open objects. She collects those points and then she can spend those points to unlock new abilities and upgrade those abilities. Also, when she beats a boss, a new type of unlock occur. For instance, when you beat the first boss, she unlocks an upgrade that her starting weapon, rather than being a sword, is a hammer. So what are the implications? Well, for one thing, you're not meant to beat this game in one playthrough. That is, that there is no saving of your location progress. You have to start from square one every time, and as we said, when you start again, the dungeon has reset. It is also possible for a gameplay with little or no meaningful progress to occur, because depending on what you've done, it is all lost. Because, like I said, your progress through the physical location, the dungeon, is lost. Your equipment is lost, and again, the only type of equipment that I've encountered is a weapon. And if you haven't earned many points, then you can't even buy an upgrade. So it's possible for gameplay that has no meaningful progress. And we'll talk about why that is one of the key issues we want to talk about. Also, the last thing is the impermanence of equipment. Okay, so since you lose that item, it makes item hunting futile, which is often a key aspect of what you're doing. You're treasure hunting. You're looking for that new item to get that helps you in your mission, that helps you in the gameplay. Well, if the items are impermanent, then that basically makes that type of hunting pointless. So, why make a game in the form of a roguelike? Why not just create a full-on dungeon storming game? Since I am not part of any of the development teams, I can only speculate. However, the most likely answer is that since these types of games tend to come from small developers, it's really out of necessity. That if they were to just make a straight up dungeon storm, it'd be a very short game. Some of these roguelites, I've seen non-glitch speedruns of like 20 minutes only. That there technically isn't that much content. It's basically the dying and trying again isn't just a penalty, it's a key part of the gameplay. Trying again, trying again, trying again. So in short, how do you stretch out a rather meager amount of content to a full-length game? You reconstitute it over and over again. That's what they're doing. So when you die, the dungeon resets. So everything you learned about the layout of the dungeon no longer matters because it's a new layout. All the enemies have repopulated. You have to fight those same low-level introductory enemies again. This isn't just a penalty. This is a key part of the game. And therein lies the weakness to this genre. It is inherently a grind. Rather than having a culmination of your effort where you get better equipment and better skills and get further into the dungeon, you keep getting this reset. So in this case, there is one thing that is persistent, and that's the skill system, but everything else gets reset. So you are denied that satisfaction of progression. You keep getting reset back to the beginning. It is inherently a grind. And you'll never have a well thought out dungeon when you're using a randomly generated dungeon. Yes, they prefer the term procedurally generated, but at the core of that procedure is randomization. Yes, there are certain rules, like the dungeon's going to be a certain length, a certain size, and that you need to have a clear path from point A to point B. But other than that, everything else is going to be random. Yes, you can add key and lock puzzles with a randomized system, but they're probably never going to be as clever as what a person's going to come up when they're handcrafting it, and that they are thinking about how they would go through the dungeon themselves and how they would place things to stymie the player. You're never going to get that because you know it's randomly generated. It's a roll of the dice. You got lucky, it was easy, roll the dice, got unlucky, and it was hard. So you're never going to have that sense of understanding what the designer was trying to get at when they made this dungeon. You're never going to get that satisfaction because you know it is random. And I just want to briefly return to the point about how equipment is not permanent, how you lose it upon Remi's death. To me, attaining new gear, attaining new equipment, it's effort made manifest. That is, the gear is the proof, it's the manifestation of your effort. You beat a boss and you receive this. This is the proof that you beat the boss. It is a proof of your efforts, it's a proof of how much you've improved and how much you learned. So you lose that validation. You lose that proof of what you've accomplished. And that to me really sums up what's wrong with rogue likes and rogue lights, is that key validation, that key proof of accomplishment is often lost. And that should just about do it for this critique. I hope you found it interesting, and I'm going to continue looking at current games and seeing what those games can teach us about game design, both for good and for ill. And hopefully you find this interesting and this helps you in your efforts.